Good morning, family. Happy Fantastic Friday. Today is Friday, April 3rd, 2020. If everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We're standing tall. We're facing our flag. Hands are placed over our hearts. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for our school mission statement. We are here to be literate, innovative, and proficient scholars who will participate in rich academic learning in a nurturing environment where we will rise. This will be accomplished by creating collaborative and supportive teaching and learning systems involving the entire PS17 community. I want to shout out two students yesterday. Every student, always we shout out every student. I want to shout out Jared. I think you're in Miss Ferruggio's class. I think Jared, and also Charlie in Miss Capayan's class. I'm really glad that you all like this text, Rotten, and that you're enjoying the nonfiction. Secret, I'm actually a really, really big nonfiction fan. I'm reading a nonfiction book right now about World War I. And I read the newspaper every day. I read 2 newspapers on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And Monday through Thursday, I read 1 newspaper. I love nonfiction. I love fiction too, but nonfiction is my favorite. I'm enjoying this text, Rotten. Remember, we're learning about the concept of decomposition. And yesterday, we thought about how this cycle here is almost like a cycle of decomposition, and how the plant feeds the animal eats the plant. There's a process here. Remember, we saw this circle coming up, this little nitrogen circle here. It was happening when the deer was eating the plant. When the deer passed away, I think we started to learn that the deer's body decomposes and becomes part of the life cycle again for another deer to eat another plant. So we started talking about the next section of the book we're going to read, about fungus or fungi. And we're just going to take a little picture walk before we read a short section of this part of the book. There looks like there's some plant life here. Plants don't really have faces on them like that, right? So I think that the illustrator's just being a little silly. But there's some plants here. It looks like there's some underground stuff happening, but then also some above ground stuff happening as well. And I'm noticing that this chapter says fungus, slurping rotten. Slurping is like a sound you make, like a kind of like a gross sound you make when you're eating, like. So I'm wondering if fungus or fungi eat things that are rotten, because again, slurping, I'm noticing here, part of the title of this chapter, slurping. Slurping is that sound you make when you're eating, okay, like, and then we have the word rotten. So I'm wondering if fungus eats things that are rotten and how that is part of decomposition. That's what I'm wondering right now. So let's take a look at one of the pages a little bit in depth. So remember what good nonfiction books have and texts have. They often have pictures with some diagrams. So there's 2 small sections here. One has a picture again of what looks like a mushroom, and then I'm noticing almost like root-like things in the diagram. Something underground. So this part looks like it's supposed to be above ground. There's some brown dirt, and there's some almost looks like tentacles. And I know it's not tentacles because it's not an octopus, but it looks like a web, like roots. And then I see this word here, mycelia. So I'm wondering what part of this diagram is mycelia. And then we have another picture here, and there's a little title, a little subtitle to this part, this section. It says, how does a fungus eat? And I'm noticing what looks like a piece of bread. There's some green moldy stuff growing on the bed. Oh, there's that word again, mycelia. We have something that says enzymes digest. And it says slice of bread. So we have slice of bread. We have this phrase enzymes digest. And then there's that word again, mycelia. which was also a part of this picture here. So I'm wondering if when bread gets moldy, something happens with decomposition too, and what that has to do with fungus. All right, so you ready to read this section? Looks interesting. Okay, so here we go. They're lurking under your feet. What? They're lurking under my feet. They're floating through the air. They're hiding in the wilderness. They're sneaking inside your house. Wherever you go on planet Earth, you can be sure that fungi aren't far away. It must be all over. We must not even know that it's there. Mushrooms are just parts of what we see, but there's a lot more to fungus than meets the eye. So it must be that some of the fungus that we see sometimes when we go outside, we can actually see it's above ground. But now I have a wondering if there's other fungi that we don't see, right? That are either underground or invisible to the eye. What is fungus anyway? I'm glad we're learning about that. Was one of our questions. For centuries, that's like hundreds of years, scientists were not sure. It looks sort of like a plant, but it eats like an animal. Interesting. Oh, that slurping sound. So that must be like fungi eat. They like animals eat. That's interesting. I wonder how they eat. Let's keep reading. Fungus can't make its own food from sunlight, air, and water the way green plants can. Just as animals do, fungus has to feed on other things, living or dead. They eat other things, living or dead. That reminds me of this diagram here, because remember we spoke about when the animal passes away, it goes back into the ground, the body breaks down and goes back into the ground. I'm wondering now if fungus plays a role in helping break down the body of the animal so that it turns back into it can turn back into some kind of plant. I'm wondering what fungus does to the soil when it breaks down the body of the animal, if it does at all. That's interesting. Let's keep reading, because that's another thing good nonfiction readers do. They make connections to other parts of the text. Okay, let's see what mycelia is. A fungus starts out as a spore, a tiny speck, so tiny it's almost invisible. Carried on the wind, spores can travel from the parent fungus. If they land in the right place, they germinate, they grow, sending out slender root-like threads. They grow into webs called mycelia, which looks like tangles of yarn. Interesting. So if a piece of the spore from the fungus lands, it can grow like roots, like a plant, and they start forming those mycelia. Let's see what they do. Almost everywhere you walk, on grass, forest, or pavement, there's a dense web of mycelia beneath your feet. They wind their way through soil, reach deep into rotting logs, poke into dead animals, and all that fungus is hungry. Maybe that's where that rotting comes, that slurping rotting. They like to feed on like rotting things. That's interesting. Let's read a little bit about this. How does a fungus eat? That was one of our questions. When you eat a crunchy pretzel or tough piece of meat, it goes into your stomach where acids and chemicals called enzymes soften and dissolve it so you can absorb its nutrition into your body. Fungi digest their food first, then eat it afterward. The mycelia ooze out powerful enzymes that can soften almost anything, even wood or bone. Once the meal is nice and mushy, the mycelia slurp up the nutrients. So that must be like when it breaks down its food, these things right here, the mycelia slurp. They're not really going like this, right? We don't hear those noises, but they suck up the nutrients and it must feed the fungus. Let's keep reading. Some fungi eat dead animals, which connects back to that diagram that we looked at again that we read yesterday. Others prefer dead plants. Some are picky eaters. One type of fungus eats only pine cones, While a different species eats only pine needles, some fungi eat other fungi. We just learned a lot. We learned about mycelia and how it sucks up nutrients. We're also learning that fungi almost helps decompose things, right? Like dead animals or dead plants. And then it sucks up the nutrients, those things. I'm wondering what happens after that. I'm really interested in learning more about like fungus and how like that has to do with a slice of bread. So when we read tomorrow, we're going to dig in a little bit more to fungus because there is fungus among us. Okay, PS17, we wish you a fantastic Friday, and you're going to say it with me. As always, we love you. Have a great weekend, everybody.